Hey everyone, today's lesson is for Unit 2, Lesson 7, and we are going to focus on the government of Mesopotamia and the purpose behind why laws are made. So we have learned previously that Mesopotamia was divided up into city-states, and city-states are cities and their surrounding areas that are set up like their own independent countries. They have their own governments, they have their own laws. They were cities within this area, but they were independent from one another. So we've also talked about how these city-states would attack one another for different reasons. But what would happen as well is these city-states would take over the others. So they would grow, get powerful, attack other city-states, and ultimately take over them. And this creates an empire. So an empire is when different independent city-states are brought under the control of one ruler. So these different city-states would fight one another. One would win, one would lose, and the winner would typically take over the other and have control. And when they would do this to multiple city-states and control multiple different independent areas, this is known as an empire. So each city-state has its own king. We've talked about this before. The king is at the very top of their social system, but the role of the king was to enforce laws, collect taxes, build temples, maintain irrigation systems, and to lead the army. Since one of the roles of the king was to enforce the laws, how and why did they come up with them? What is the purpose of laws? So the main purpose of having laws is to maintain order within a society, to solve disputes and problems, so tell how to handle things like court cases, or if someone breaks a law or does something against another, how to handle those situations, and to protect liberties and rights, so to protect the rights and things of the citizens and make sure that they have these protections available to them. So one of the most well-known kings of Mesopotamia is going to be a man named Hammurabi. And Hammurabi was the king of the Babylonian Empire from 792 to 750 BCE. So he was the leader of Babylon, and they took over other city-states, and they were going to create the Babylonian Empire. And he was an extremely powerful ruler, and under his leadership and under his military command, he is going to take over and unite and control pretty much all of Mesopotamia. So he knew that he had to have something that united all the different groups of the people throughout Mesopotamia. He needed a set of rules that all of his people could obey and that would preserve order. He believed a code of law would help control the empire. So he created what is known as Hammurabi's Code of Law. This was a uniform code of law. So this means that it is a set of laws that impacted all of the people that were enforced throughout the entire empire. So uniform code of law means it is affecting everybody and is enforced with everybody. So his code of law had 282 very specific laws that dealt with every single thing that would affect a community. So from family relations to how businesses should be handled or how trade and things should work, how to handle crimes, what was considered a crime, and all of the punishments for breaking these laws. They ended up carving these laws into giant stone pillars known as steles, and these steles were placed all over Mesopotamia in public places so that everyone would see and know them. So here are just a couple examples of his laws. 196, if a man put out the eye of another man, his eye shall be put out. 198, if he puts out the eye of a freedman or break the bone of a freedman, he shall pay 1 gold mina. 199, if he put out the eye of a man's slave or break the bone of a man's slave, he shall pay 1/2 of its value. So a lot of these laws that we are going to see are also going to be very retribution based. So the whole eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth concept. If you do something against someone in your same level, then that shall be done to you. So the purposes of creating a uniform code of law, like the one that Hammurabi made, was to explain how to settle problems and how certain court cases should be decided, explain how society would be run, to have a set series of laws for people to follow, and to make things fair and just. So these were kind of the big reasons why Hammurabi created this uniform code of law, and these are pretty much the same purposes and reasons why we make laws today. So just to recap, city-states had kings who created the laws for the people. Hammurabi was a king who once controlled almost all of Mesopotamia, and he created a code of laws to help control all the people. He carved the code into pillars and placed them around the empire so all people could see. He wanted laws to cover all aspects of life, from family, work, crimes, and more. And then the purpose of creating a uniform code of law is to explain how to settle problems and how certain court cases should be decided, explain how society would be run, to have a set series of laws for people to follow, and to make things fair and just. So this is the basics of why we create laws and the purpose behind having laws. And one of the most common, most well-known kings of Mesopotamia who created some very important, very well-known laws.